Today on Hands on Tech, I'm going to share a device that's going to allow you to get some beautiful, smooth footage for your next video project. It's a gimbal, but it's not one of those big, expensive gimbals that you're thinking I'm going to talk about. Stay tuned.
This is TWiT.
What's up, everybody? I am Pruitt, and this is Hands on Tech here on TWiT TV. Hope y'all are doing well. I am unbelievable as always. I love sitting down and chatting with you all and sharing with you different tech devices that I get my hands on because there's a lot of cool stuff out there, and most of it has some pretty interesting prices. Unfortunately, some of those things tend to fall through the cracks every now and then and get overlooked. And today I want to talk about a particular product that really got some attention because of episode 119 of Hands on Tech. Thank you all for watching that video, by the way. But people commented on that video because of how the B-roll looked in it. Everyone was saying, wow, the B-roll is so smooth, the panning and the orbiting. Everybody seemed to love that. Well, how did I create that B-roll footage? I used a gimbal. I used my DSLR and I used a gimbal that helped get everything nice and smooth so I can go around and pan and you don't get any type of jittering and stuttery and shaking footage of it. It's absolutely beautiful if you can figure out how to use a gimbal. And today I want to talk about this gimbal right here. This is the FeiyuTech DSLR mirrorless camera gimbal. And this thing is pretty nice considering the price point on it. The model actually is the AK2000C. Now this one is a little bit more on the lower end side from a pricing standpoint. Most gimbals nowadays are going to cost you upwards of $400 or more, depending on what you're looking for, especially when you look at the likes of the DJIs out there. And that pricing can be justified to an extent, depends on what you're looking for, in my opinion. But I think what they're offering here from FeiyuTech, what they're offering here is giving you a really good value dollar for dollar. They're not going to have some of the other bells and whistles of the DJI brands, the upper DJI gimbals, but quite frankly, most people are not going to use that are just doing hobbyist stuff, enthusiast stuff, or even some indie films. Okay. All right. So let's dive into some of the technical information regarding this here gimbal. So again, this thing is metallic. It has a little bit of a plastic handle feel to it. It's lightweight, and it also comes with an additional tripod that screws in at the bottom of it with the 1/4 thread. That tripod is great for getting everything set up and getting your camera mounted pretty easily, because when you put your camera on one of these gimbals, you have to go through a little bit of a dance to get it balanced. Because if you look at it here on the screen, all of these arms right here will move around, and you have to try to figure out the best way to get your camera balanced. So once you fire up the gimbal will hold your camera steady and balanced regardless of the movement that you're doing. Fortunately, in addition to those tripod legs that this thing has on the bottom of it, it comes with 3 locks because this is a 3-axis gimbal for panning and tilting and rolling. So it has locks on all of the different axes for the gimbal. Here's a lock here. Here's another lock up on the tilt side, right about there. And then it has a lock down here on the handle. I'm not going to show you, but there's a lock on the handle that works for the actual panning side of things. Now, my experience with this, getting everything set up, just putting my camera on here was pretty easy. Getting it balanced was pretty easy for the most part, as it comes with a mounting plate, just like any other tripod would, that has some sort of a Arca Swiss type of bottom to it. So if you don't want to use the mounting plate that comes with it, if your tripod head has a mounting plate that's Arca Swiss type on it, like this one here where it has the little edges, you can use that as well. I use their mounting plate, and I use a couple of my own mounting plates on this without an issue. But yeah, balancing this was pretty easy because of those extra locks on there and getting everything squared away. I do have a bit of an issue with the locks. For example, the roll lock, once you set it in place, it stays there. Now, if I happen to work on the pitch lock at the same time, it tends to make the roll lock move away. Once you set it in place, it works pretty good. Let's see if I can switch the camera here and show you an example of what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to set this roll lock here to be squared away and set in place. All right, so push that up, make sure it's steady, and there, it's locked. And I'm pushing down on it right now, and it's not moving. This is great. What I don't like is if I happen to bump it and push up on it, just a nudge, it totally goes off and unlocks. I don't like that. That's something I think that they could address with this. But again, this is something at a lower price point that may allow this to be, air quotes, acceptable. It didn't cause me any damage as far as my camera just falling over and flopping over, anything like that. But I did notice it a time or two, and just it only seems like it's just this particular lock on this model. The pitch lock and the pan and lock, those work pretty well. Just lock them in place and boom, it's done. But something about this roll lock, it just didn't quite like staying in place if I nudged it. But if I push down on it, it's not going anywhere. So just keep that in mind. Some other features regarding this is most gimbals nowadays, they force you to have some sort of a mobile app assigned to it. I'm gonna sit this down for now. They force you to have some sort of mobile app because they have a bunch of different features that you can tap into as far as controlling the camera, as far as auto tracking using some type of AI system and autofocus, and all of that's pretty fine and dandy and neat, but it's not totally necessary. Autofocus would be a nice perk to have on this, but this does not allow you to control the autofocus from your camera. But it does allow you to control pretty much everything else on your camera without having to install a mobile app. And what it does is it allows you to connect your camera to the gimbal using one of these accessory clips here. And there's a bunch of them that they send in this packaging. They all have to have this USB-C connector because that's what connects into the gimbal, is a USB-C port. But they have a bunch of different ones in here. Like this is a 3.5 millimeter. Nobody has that on their camera. Or you have USB-C to USB-C. In my instance, my two DSLRs that I was using, they all have mini USB instead of micro USB. They have a couple micro USB adapters in here, but mine don't work that way. So I had to grab one of these mini USB to USB-C connectors, and it not something too long. I only got about 6 inches worth, and it worked out perfectly fine. Plugs in and allows me to control my camera pretty easily just by swiping my thumb on the user interface. About the user interface, it is really simple. It is a simple touch screen, and it's designed for you to be able to just use your thumb to swipe across the different screens on here. You can swipe to set up different types of shooting modes, whether it's just going to be a full follow or a pan only or a lock off mode. Pretty simple. Just swipe through, tap, and you're done. If you want to adjust the settings as far as the payload calibration, pretty easy to do. Just swipe through. Make sure it's balanced, hit calibrate, and it's done. It'll work through the paces of it and make sure everything is square, and it's done. It only takes about 10 seconds tops, really quick, and it's nicely done. Far as the actual payload capacity, this is rated to handle up to 4 pounds or so, or as what does they say here technically on this dock? I want to say they put it in kilograms. 2.2 kilograms. So that's 5 pounds. So it's supposed to handle up to 5 pounds in payload. That is your camera body and the camera lens that is attached. Should be up to 5 pounds. I have some pretty beefy DSLRs that I use. My 6D Mark II is a pretty beefy camera. It's the same comparison as the 5D Mark IV from Canon. Beefy size. From a body standpoint, is roughly about 1.5 pounds. But if you add this 24-105 lens, that's nice, tight, weather sealed, and super duper heavy, it's getting up to about 4 pounds in total weight. Now, again, coming on the spec sheet, it should handle 5 pounds or so. But I found that if I put this 24-105 either on this APS-C camera or my full frame camera, it handles it with a bit of an asterisk. If I go to balance this camera on the gimbal with that particular lens, balancing the tilt on it is pretty difficult. So what I ended up doing is I would get everything squared away as far as balancing the roll and panning, and fire up the gimbal. And once it's fired up, I let go, and it would hold everything in place. But if I went just a little bit too far on the tilt, as far as tilting down, it would just lose control and drop it, and just, it wouldn't fall off the camera or anything like that, but it would drop. It just didn't quite have the strength to handle that much weight. Putting it down to something at around 3 pounds, like maybe my smaller 50mm lens or 85mm lens, not an issue at all. So don't quite buy into the marketing where they even said in the paperwork, hey, this thing can handle the 24-105 from Canon. I think I proved it wrong on this one, as far as just being rock solid handling it. It handles it, but it handles it to a certain extent. Now, so what do I think about this overall? Overall, this is a solid gimbal considering the pricing. I haven't mentioned the pricing yet. I just mentioned the pricing of the competitors out there, like the likes of DJI or Zhiyun. I can never say that one. At the time of recording this, you can get the AK2000C for $229. That's well over $100 less expensive than the competitors out there. And I think for that price point, you're going to get a pretty good value out of this. You're going to be able to shoot some smooth footage for whatever project that you're working on, whether it's a upcoming YouTube video, whether it's a vlog, because I failed to mention, you can even shoot in selfie mode with this gimbal pretty easily. Selfie mode as well as a time-lapse mode is available on here, and none of it requires you to use a mobile app. It's all done within the touchscreen built into the gimbal. Seamless, super quick, super easy to use. Again, I think this is a great value. They offer this for $229 on their website. We'll have some links in our show description. You can even get a couple of the accessories, as far as like an extra handle to make things a little bit better for you grip wise, or even if you want to do some low angle shooting and even shoot some inception modes where your screen is rotating while you're recording. All of this capabilities right into this device without the limitations of having to use a mobile app to have all of those features. Again, get it on the website, $229. Check the show notes for that link, and check it out for yourself. Okay, so that is going to do it for this episode of Hands on Tech. I thank you all so much for checking out the show each and every week. Be sure to check out all the other shows here in the network, and particularly my show, Hands on Photography, at twit.tv/hop, where we shoot and record that each and every Thursday. Thank you all again for all of the continued and tremendous support, and we'll catch you next time here on Hands on Tech. So now, safely create and dominate. Y'all take care.
Keep up with all the hottest tech news and gadgets. Visit twit.tv. There you'll be able to find and subscribe to all our tech shows. Thanks for watching Hands on Tech.